that looks pretty good. So the first two are kind of the opposite of what we did yesterday. Yesterday I gave you a graph, and then from the graph you had to do the slope-intercept form of the equation. Today I'm giving you the slope-intercept form of the equation, you're going to do the graph. So let's figure out what the slope and the intercept is first. So my slope, remember, is always in front of the x. So negative 5/3. That's my slope. My intercept is at 4. Now, when you go to graph these, you always want to graph the intercept first. The slope tells you where you're going, but you can't very well know where you're going until you know where you've been. So the 4 tells you your starting point. So on the y-axis, we're starting at 4. So y-axis will start at 4. Now, I've had quite a few people today kind of messing up the slope, the direction. Notice this is a negative slope. So since it's a negative slope, we're looking downhill. So I could either go up and to the left, but it's going to run out of room. So I better go down and to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. So there's my other point. So always look to see what direction your slope is. If it's a negative slope, it needs to go downhill. Now, you guys have rulers, mainly so that way when you go ahead and connect your points, it can look relatively neat. I'm going to go ahead and connect. Not too bad, a little crooked. So there's a line. Notice it is a line. It's not a segment. I didn't start at the point, end at the point. It's a line, so I go through the points. So let's get a few people finishing that one off. So number 2, same basic idea. My slope is 4/3, so slope was 4/3. My intercept is negative 2, so I put a negative 2. Always start with the intercept. That's your beginning point. So we're going to start at negative 2. Now, it's a positive slope. So since it's a positive slope, it needs to go this way because it's got to go uphill. So I'm going to go rise 4, run 3. Rise 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, run 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go ahead and do it again just so I have more points so my line will be straighter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. You don't have to do it again. It just makes it easier for me to draw my line in. Hey, that didn't look too bad. So on the first 2, I'm giving you the slope and the intercept by using the slope and intercept form of the equation, and then your graph. Questions on those 2? Now the next 2 are the easiest ones. Are we good on the first 2? Can I move on? So let's look at the next 2. Next 2 are the easiest of the batch. Next 2. I have an x-intercept, I have a y-intercept. X-intercept means that's where it crosses the x line. So it's going to cross the x line at 3. So put a point at 3. Y-intercept is where it crosses the y line. It crosses the y line at negative 2, so put a point at negative 2. That's it. Connect. So it's the easiest of the bunch. Put a point on the x-intercept, put a point on the y-intercept. So number 4, put a point on the x-intercept, x-intercept 2, put a point on the y-intercept, so the y line 5. connect. Like I said, your line should be straighter because you have a ruler.
Is this all we're doing today?
I'm going to do the first 8 with you, and then the last 8 is what you're going to do, and then that's it. Are we okay on 3 and 4? I said they're the easiest of the bunch. Next 2. Now, we did something like this yesterday. These are in standard form. It's kind of hard to graph from standard form. So instead of graphing from standard form, we're going to change these to slope-intercept like we did yesterday. So it's the same process as yesterday, but I'm going a step further and actually graph it. Now, I had a lot of people struggle with these yesterday. So I'm going to really kind of re-explain this almost because there was a lot of struggles. So I'm just rewriting this just so I have some place to work with it. Now, an awful lot of you, and not just you guys in general, people just all over the day. I want to make it look like this. Y equals mx plus b. So this 4x has to go behind the equals. Remember, if this is going to the other side of the equal sign, I'm moving the 4x, so I'm subtracting a 4x to move it. Anytime you want to move something to the other side, you do the opposite. So to get rid of a 4x, I subtract a 4x. So the 3y I'm going to keep where it's at equals negative 4x minus 15 is just going to stay where it's at. So you've got to remember when you move the x to the other side, it has to become negative. And a lot of you, like I said, not just you guys in general, but the entire day, wasn't out changing the sign. The next step then is you have to divide by the 3. So divide by the 3. This cancels out. Y equals, this is going to give you a fraction, negative 4 over 3. X, negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. So there's my final answer. And I had a lot of people struggling rearranging yesterday. Now, once it's in slope-intercept form of the equation, it's just what we did on number 1 and 2. Graph the intercept first. So I'm going to put a point at negative 5. Now, it's a negative slope. Negative slopes go downhill. It has to go this way. Well, I don't really have any room to go down this way because I'm going to run out of room. So my negative 4/3, I'm actually going to go up and to the left. So up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Left 3, 1, 2, 3. There's my point. And then go ahead and connect. It's a negative slope, so I've got to make sure it's going downhill. It has to go downhill. Are we okay on number 5? You still didn't get that data yet? So 3x minus 5y equals 5. Whoop, 5y. I'm just rewriting it so I have a place to work. Move the x. Make sure when you move it, you change it to the negative. I'm going to slide it over. Negative 5y equals negative 3x plus 5. There's my 7. I moved the x. It was positive on the left. So to move it, I had to subtract. Divide by negative 5. y equals negative, and a negative changes to a positive. So 3/5 x, positive divided negative is a negative, so -1. Graph the -1. So put a point at -1. It's a positive slope. Positive slopes go this way, up and to the right. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Connect. There's my line. Oh, now Richard's going to try. Five and 6. Same as thing as I did yesterday. I'm going from standard form of the equation, and I'm rearranging it into slope-intercept. Because slope-intercept is the easiest place to graph from. It's the easiest form to work with. Are we okay on 4, 5, and 6? So see a couple people trying to get stuff down. 7, 8. Now 7, 8 isn't in any particular form. They're just equations. They're linear equations. And I still want to get it to look like this. Y equals mx plus b. Because like I said, that's the easiest way to graph from. So what I need to do is, go ahead and rewrite this. Negative x equals 2y minus 4. Now, right now, these two things are on the wrong sides. I need the y in front, I need the x in back. So the y I'm going to move in front, the x I'm going to move in back. So those two things have to trade sides. And anytime you trade sides, you have to change the sign. So the 2y, to move it, I'm going to subtract 2y. So I subtract 2y. It's now a negative 2y on this side. Negative x, to get rid of a negative x, I'm going to add x. So on this side, it's now a positive x, minus 4. So the minus 4 I just brought down. So I just want to make sure everything's on the correct spots. That's the first step, is just get everything on the correct spots. Now that they're on the correct spots, I still got that -2 in the front. So I still have to divide by -2. So divide everything by -2. This cancels. I get y equals. Now I had a lot of people yesterday. I had something that kind of looked like this, where I had a plain old x, and a lot of people just put a -2 down here, or a 2, or whatever it was. But remember, that's actually a 1x. If there's no number in front of it, it must have been a 1. So it's actually 1 over 2, and yes, it is negative. So -1 over 2x. And I had a lot of people that just kind of lost the 1 on top. You have to keep a 1 on top. Ones on bottom, not necessarily. Ones on top make a big difference. -4 divided by -2 gives me a positive 2. So now I have an equation I can graph from. So put the point on 2. It's a negative slope, and negative slopes go downhill. So I have a choice. I can either go down and to the right, down 1 over 2, or I could have also gone up and to the left. But I got to make sure it's going this way for a negative slope, downhill. There's my line. Negative slopes go downhill, positive slopes go uphill. One more to go. Again, let me write it over here. 0 equals y minus x plus 3. What's on the wrong side?
0.
The 0, but 0 is just 0. I don't really have to worry about a 0 for the most part. But I do definitely need to move what? The y. The y is on the wrong side. So when I move the y is going to come over. Remember, if it's a plus y, to move it, I subtract y. And then that 0 is just going to disappear because there was really nothing there. So negative y equals negative x plus 3. Anytime you're going from one side of the equal to the other side of the equal, change the sign, change the sign, change the sign. Well, now I'm close, but it's a negative y as opposed to a positive y. So I just got to change all of my things because it's basically like I'm dividing by -1. And I've had a few people try to like divide by a y. You're not dividing by y, you're dividing by -1. So the negatives cancel. I don't need the 1 on bottom. The negatives cancel. I have an x. Positive divided by a negative is a -3. So all I did was I went through and changed all my signs. Because it's like I divided by a -1. Well, my y-intercept is -3 because it's a plain old number. The plain old number, once I get into this form, is always what I start with. What's my slope on this thing? Because my slope is what is in front of the x.
So it's 1.
So it's 1. So my slope in this case is 1. But think of it as 1 over 1. Because I always think of slope as a fraction. So that way I have a rise and a run. So rise 1, run 1. It's a positive 1, 1. So it's got to be going this way. So 1, 1, 1, 1. I'm going to do a couple of them just so I get a straight line. There's my line. So again, if there's nothing in front of the x, but you have an x, it's a 1. Now, if you don't have an x at all, it must have been a 0 because the x disappeared. If it's a plain old number like a 4, make sure you put 4 over 1. Now, 1 through 8. I went through basically 2 of each type. 9 through 16 are what you guys are going to work on.